still around. I honestly haven't seen her. A Fang is an elephant that's called Fang because she's got a very clear recurved tusk. Her tusk curves right back towards her leg. It's completely upside down, essentially. I haven't seen Fang for a very, very long time. I think the last person to see Fang might have been Taylor, but I have been on leave a few times this month, so I'm not 100% sure. But I think the last person to see Tang was either What? Tang? Tang was either Phalo or Brent. Spoonerisms, yay. Which way to go? Quickest route to Hyena Den. I'm so excited. Finally. And in the area that we searched and searched, not quite the block that we searched yesterday, but the area that we searched and searched. While I go racing off because I simply cannot contain myself anymore, let's go and see which bird of prey James has found.
I hope that she is not disappointed when she gets there, because it A, is difficult for a car to get a view, and B, I'm not sure the hyenas will come back. They obviously got it. Well, no, they'll come back, but probably not just yet, because they would have got a bit of a fright from us. But that's normal. Right, we're looking there at a tawny eagle, another scavenger. And this is a perfect way to learn how to identify a tawny eagle, because you can see, of course, that its wing feathers are different colours from its head feathers, and you can see a very distinct V of different coloration from the head down the back. And that's how we identify a tawny eagle. And it is a scavenger largely. It'll be looking around for something to eat over there. And a really picturesque view of it sitting on the top of that tree there. A breeze blowing in from the northwest, unusual for this time of the day. Massive heat building at 7 o'clock in the morning. That's really gorgeous. Now, I don't know if you've been listening to the radio. Obviously you haven't been listening to the radio, you don't have a radio. But the Matimba males have made a return. Here it goes. Took one look at VM moving and thought, no, that guy's terrifying looking, I'm going to leave. And so it left. The Matimba males were found in Arathusa yesterday, and I think they're on Biffle's Hook this morning, which is quite interesting. And there's definitely a bit of conflagration in lion life out here. Now, the lives of those Matimbas, for those of you who don't know, they were the two dominant males here. They were about 10, I think, about 2 years ago. They cannot be much shy of 12 now. And they were dominant here. They took one look at the five Birmingham boys when they came in here, and the Birmingham boys were much smaller than them. They're still smaller than them, and they took flight. The Matimbas, not ones for physical confrontation. They're not big on that sort of thing. They're big on the good life, if you like. So they went down to Londolozi, where life is good, and set themselves up there, plenty to eat, sort of sandwiched themselves in between two lion territories, and then managed to sire a whole lot of cubs. 16, I think, at the last count, which isn't too bad at all for two males who were chased out of this area unceremoniously without so much as a bye or leave. Anyway, they've stayed out of trouble. They've had one or two altercations with dominant males of those two areas, the Majingalan Coalition and the Machapiri Coalition being the two ones that they've sandwiched themselves in between. But they are now back here because I think the Majingalan Coalition of 4 males has moved back into that Londolozi area. So for some reason, or in typical fashion, the Matimbas, rather than stand and fight, have thought, well, we'll just leave this area for now, pop up to the north and see if we can't sort ourselves out there. There is some dung that VM is pointing at. Well spotted, VM. You're a dung magnet, you are. Now, we had a request early this morning. I'm going to finish my lion story shortly, for lots of different kinds of dung. Well, here we have mongoose dung of some sort. It looks a little bit like dwarf mongoose dung, except there's only one pile, and I think it's a little bit big. So I'm going to go with a slender mongoose. Yes, I think probably a slender mongoose that went to the loo over here. There we go. We can have a look what's in it. And I'm sorry, I forget exactly who it was that wanted us to find dung for a scrapbook. It was Abigail. Abigail, here you go. There is some dung for your dung book. I'm just breaking it up because I want to see what's in it. in case I've made a mistake, but I'm pretty sure this is fairly... there's some vegetable matter in there as well.
That's not porcupine.
It could be a porcupine, VM, yes. VM reckons that this is a porcupine's dung, and I'm starting to agree with him, because there's quite a lot of vegetation in it, and very little, actually, in the way of meaty stuff. Alright, Vim, we'll give it porcupine. Vim spotted porcupine tracks earlier. He wanted to know about where their quills were, why they weren't being dragged with the porcupine tracks. Now he's found porcupine dung. Vim, do you think you could probably find us a porcupine?
I'll try.
He'll try, thank you very much. If I what?
If you'll sing the song.
If I'll sing the song, the porcupine song. You mean the Lady Gaga porcupine song?
Yeah, that's
Porcupine, porcupine. Porcupine, porcupine. That works quite nicely. Yeah, that'll be stuck in my head for weeks now. Very relevant. You see how topical we are here, of course. Hashtag Super Bowl. Wasn't it hashtag Pepsi Zero halftime show or something like that? I don't know. There's so much advertisements that go into those things. Porcupine, porcupine. All right. Right, my lion story. Let me continue with my lion story. So my lion story is that the Majinga Lion Coalition have re-established themselves, or are reasserting themselves, obviously leaving a vacuum to the west where they normally occupy, and I suspect when they go back to the west, those two Matimbas, avoiding as they do the conflict, will move slowly back there. Then also to tell you, and many of you who follow these various Facebook sites will have seen, that Mfumo, the male lion, has had a big fight with somebody. Could have been one of his own coalition, could have been one of the Matimbas, except the Matimbas not known for their great physical, as I was saying, for their fights. It could have been one of the Majinga lions, but he's got a very nasty cut underneath his eye, and it's on the same side. Let me just do this like this. Yes, it is his left. It is his left side. Is it? No, it's his right side. It's his right-hand side where he's got that gash there. And then he's now got a huge scar down the front of his face here, with that whole piece of the flap of skin underneath his eye that's been pulled away. His eyelid is unaffected, it would seem, but he's going to look very, he's going to recover from it. I just feel a bit sorry for him. He's going to be quite sore for a while, but he's going to look very grizzled once that heals. A bit like that male lion from the Mara called Scarface. Now our plan from here, we're heading north now, is to move towards where the leopards were seen yesterday and see if we can't pick them up again. Perhaps their tracks, perhaps we'll be lucky. Brent is back at the Democratic Republic of the Congo, that's where we live, trying to fix what's going on there. Now Jamie is not too far from the Hyena Den. Let's go and find out how that drive is going.
I'm not too far from the Hyena Den, and we've had our dose. Well, I haven't. Jeandre's had his dose of adrenaline for this morning, haven't you, Jeandre? Drove past a Black Mumba that I didn't see. I was looking that way, Black Mumba was there, and it reared up at Jeandre and then slithered off into the bushes. They do that as a defense, and they often will slam their bodies down. They can lift easily half of their bodies off the ground completely before slamming it back down again. So I think Jeandre had a little bit of a surprise. Unfortunately, we tried and tried, but the Mamba had more of a surprise than Jeandre did and vanished into underneath a bush somewhere. I think it's gone into the hollow of a fallen stump or something like that. But I tried to see if we could see it again. No chance. How big was it, Jeandre? 6 meters. Yeah, maybe 4. 14, yes, 14 meters long, massive Mamba. I'm not quite pardon? Girth of an elephant trunk, right. This is a story that, of course, will grow with epic proportions. It was probably it was not the biggest Mamba I've seen. It was big enough, 2 meters-ish, 6 feet. And it slithered off with its head up and then straight into somewhere safe. This puffback is displaying. Puffbacks are so incorrigible. They are contrary. Just when you think you're about to get them on camera, there it is. There he goes. Just when you think you're about to get a really nice clear view of them, they disappear. Yes, we see you with your bright red eye. There it is, and gone. I wanted to try and show you what it looks like with its cotton ball on its back. And black back, puff back. Hyenas, onwards. I'm actually giving them a little bit of time to relax and return to their den once again. It sounds as though they might have got a little bit of a surprise. We were so close. So close. Tracks up and down that road. I'm not sure where exactly they are because Kirsty and Herbie were telling me at the same time, but I'm sure we'll figure it out. Herbie sounded so excited. so excited. First day back on the job, back from leave, and he does it. Right, Jeandre, you keep a lookout for mambas. It's a pity because I would have loved to have shown you that particular snake. They are deadly, but at the same time they are beautiful, and I find them actually quite awe-inspiring. The way that they move and the strength of those bodies. And they're not, despite their reputation, it didn't chase us down the road, did it, Jeandre? It didn't. It did. Yeah. Came racing after us. The 14-meter long Black Mumba, girth of an elephant, came racing down the road after us. That, of course, did not happen. It was just as afraid of us as we were of it. They've got this reputation as being really fast, and that they are really fast, but that they'll chase you if you encounter them. The only reason it might do that is if it feels trapped. I've been trying to show you that hawk eagle, but it's being as contrary as the puffback. Squirrel alarm calling, that would be at the hawk eagle. Let's see if we can find it. Sharp-eyed little creatures, squirrels. I suppose you have to be. I can hear it alarm calling, I can't see it. Like a little witch's cackle. Silence. Realization that the eagle has flown away and the threat has passed. Brent was keeping me thoroughly entertained with the story of the squirrel that popped out in the same tree as Nkanyeni, and obviously didn't want to alarm call properly because it didn't want to draw attention to itself. Oh, drat. Should have seen that sooner. It was not lilac-breasted, European roller, but it would have been beautiful on that branch. You have a tendency to get lilac-breasted rollers when they're on power lines, which doesn't make for bad screenshots, but it doesn't make for the best screenshots. Jeandre's pulling a face. As we make our way towards the Hyena Den that Bushwalk has found, let's go and see where else their plans are on their morning stroll. Where else their plans are?
We're come towards Chelapan now to see if we can't find evidence of where the royal family has gone. Now, I was just saying to Herbert that I think they're moving quite a long way further north at the moment. They haven't been down the other side of Little Gari, or Karula hasn't. Yes, the little cubs have, but Karula hasn't for, well, a few days now. And she seems to be concentrating further towards the north. That's not necessarily a good or bad thing, because, of course, she could easily go into Biffle's Hook. And one day it would be nice if she just decided that Djuma was enough. Surely Djuma should be enough for her. Right, we're at Chelapan. Let's see what little creatures we can find here. I was hoping to find a water strider or back swimmer. Lizard Script, you ask an appropriate question for your Twitter handle. You say, have I encountered any reptiles on bushwalk? Not today. I was kind of hoping that I'd first Hyena Den to find our rough-scaled plated lizard, but I didn't find that. But I haven't seen any lizards here today, no. I did see one in camp earlier this morning, a little gecko. That was quite nice. There is a banded groundling. Can you see it there, Pim? Identified by my biological helper, Judy H. There it is. That little dragonfly. Golden black stripes. You see it?
It flew away now.
It flew away, typically. Alright, let's go around this way. And it's always nice to just come and check the surface of these pans here. No, that's not anything. Is it not a dead water strider? Sorry everybody, let me just see if I can get this closer to us. I think it is, you know. Ha! Check this out. Check this out. That's what we say in South Africa. Check this out. This is a dead water strider. Now, I've been slightly obsessed with these creatures since I first started reading about them and first saw them under the microscope. That is what we call a back swimmer, or water strider, and I'm just going to try and open it up. It's not in a very good way, in fact it's very much dead, but it lives pretty much upside down. There its oars, you can see its oars there like that, and the groove that it saves its water in is just along there. Not water, it puts its oxygen in there, a little bubble of oxygen, and let's just flip it over, because this remarkable creature can fly as well as swim. There you can see, when it's upright, you can see it's got wings a bit like a fly's wings. Isn't that cool? Voracious predator of tadpoles. One doesn't like predators of tadpoles these days. When one is a tadpole keeper, one doesn't like them to be preyed upon. I don't think that is a word, predate. Right, let's carry on. Nina, you make a very good point. You say watch out for crocodiles, and Brent was just saying yes, he'd be very nervous with that crocodile around Twin Dams. You look twice before you come to a pan like this and just stand at the edges and not worry about it. That crocodile is abundant, or not abundant, he's not abundant. He has he's frequented these areas. Now, here we have interesting tracks, very interesting bird tracks. What do you think these are, Vumpy?
I would guess some sort of fowl.
Some sort of fowl? You mean like a waterfowl?
Maybe guinea fowl.
Uh-huh. I think guinea fowl is a good call, except for the fact that this one has got webbing. You see that? This is an Egyptian goose. And it is evidenced further by the immaculately placed piece of copper dung over here that was formed by the Egyptian goose, Abigail. There you are. Some more dung for your scrapbook. We won't dwell too long on it. It is, after all, dung. Let's see what else we can find. There is much in the way of bird tracks here. Here, I think. Let's look at these ones here for a second. See all these little ones here? They don't have any back foot or back pad, and I therefore think that they are most likely to be the tracks of the three-banded plover. That's my guess there. And here, let's just see if this thing moves. Can you see where my stick is, yeah? Let's see what insect that is. See it moving there? I just wondered if it wasn't a drying out backswimmer, perhaps. I promise you could spend 3 hours here and discover hundreds of species that you didn't know existed before. Then, the other track to look at is these ones here. You see these little funny sort of scrapings in the bush, not in the bush, in the mud. Those are wasps, I think, that have come down here to gather mud. And that's what Herbert was looking at. That is a leopard track. And I think, well, that's a female leopard. Jeepers, if Karula's come this far down south from yesterday, that is a very long walk that she's had. That's definitely a leopard track, and it's not old. That's good news. Alright, well, let's carry on. Herbie has headed off in this direction, so we'll do the same. Nothing else that I can see of great interest there. At the pan, there's another pan just up ahead here. Now we will keep our eyes firmly open. You see it there? That is a purple roller doing a rather spectacular display. It's a very beautiful day out here, everyone. Perfect day for a bit of a stroll. Won't be so perfect a little bit later when it gets beastly hot. Butterfly flown away, never mind. There's another little pan here that we'll have a look at. And sitting just next to it, can you see the woodland kingfisher there? It's just sitting above the pan. You got it there? That's gorgeous. It was nice just to stand silently for a little while, listen to the birds. Tree, tree. Fan-tailed flycatcher, woodland kingfisher, grey-headed bushshrike. Woodpecker, hornbills. Sparrows. Oh, it's beautiful. It really is very special. I'm hoping this cloud's going to hang around, but I don't think it will. Let's just have a quick look out here at this pan. Raven, good question from you. You want to know the difference between an alarm call and a normal call. Well, an alarm call is a call of alarm. It's exactly the same as you shouting in fear. It's basically like a shout in fear. So although it's made by the same mechanism through which you speak or talk or sing, it's obviously its purpose is different. Its purpose is to indicate that you're alarmed. And so if you were an impala, for example, you snort and you do a snorting sound. It's slightly different from when you're communicating with when the rams are communicating anger to each other. It's not the same as the alarm sound, but the mechanism by which it's made is very similar. A rattling testicular, for example, its call is... That's a really bad example, but that's what it sounds like. But its alarm call is... And what that does is it distinguishes the sound it's making. It makes all the other species around there look down and see what on earth it's alarm calling at. They do that at leopards, they do that at all sorts of predators. So although the mechanism by which it makes the sound is the same, it's a different kind of sound, and it's exactly the same as you shouting in fear. You might say, "Watch out! Watch out!" You know that if you say something like that, you're not having a general conversation. And that's as opposed to, I suppose, to many of the calls that the birds make out here, which are either territorial or an attempt to pick up mates. Now, there doesn't seem to be a great deal of insect action today, but what I wanted to do is just check on this tree, because this is the tree that Steph taught us has the flea beetle on it, and the flea beetle larvae, of course, highly toxic. I have found something though. I'm not entirely sure what it is. You see there, Vim? Now that, if I'm not mistaken, is a tree hopper. It's a kind of a bug. It will drill into the sap. It's a tree or frog hopper, I can never remember the two, but it's a kind of a bug, and it lives on the sap of a tree like this. And I suspect this tree, the Rusquenzii, or the Thorny Caree as it's called, will probably give it some kind of toxin, in the same way that a milkweed does to a monarch, or a Wolferia does for an acrea. Isn't he lovely? Just get him a little bit closer to myself. Hope he don't fly away. Hello, little hopper. Look at him. Hello, Laurie. You want to know about the stick insect that I had in the tent the other day and what happened to it? Laurie, it was released, but I think it was probably on its last legs. I think it was going to die, I'm afraid. I did put it back in the bush, but to be honest, it was found in camp, you see, and in the camp the walls have been sprayed for mosquitoes in an attempt to sort of ward off malaria. It certainly has managed to ward off malaria so far. I don't think it's made any difference actually to malaria, but the number of mosquitoes in camp would indicate that it's certainly they might be breeding on whatever they've sprayed there. But it has had a deleterious effect on any insect that comes into the camp. They walk around there on the leaves, and of course they absorb whatever toxin has been sprayed there, and I think it's probably DDT. And unfortunately that's what that stick insect had done, and that's why it was so sort of calm. And it had the odd tick. They get ticks, they get horrible sort of neurological symptoms, if you like, but that's what happened to it. Well, it may have recovered and made off, but it was placed on a stick very carefully, and I suspect it was probably eaten or died fairly soon thereafter, but maybe it recovered and went away. Right, come on then. Let us continue along the way. And it's funny, you know, the more I've been interacting with the animals in the tent, so the insects and things, and we've decided we don't want to put dead things underneath the microscope unless they're really fascinating, simply because they're not nearly as interesting as watching a living creature like a tiny caterpillar eating away at a leaf or something like that. It's much more interesting to watch them living. And as I've done more and more of that, so I've felt less and less inclined to kind of trap them and keep them. And you know, the day before the TV show, I don't know if you saw it, we had a wasp robber fly. It was a fly that size. And I was going to keep it for the TV show. And eventually I just felt so bad that I let it go. And I can't believe that I've got to the stage that I'm now unable to keep an insect for a few days for fear of making it uncomfortable. I have sleepless nights over my caterpillars, which are not doing very well, I must confess to you. I'm going to have to make another plan sometime today. Right, let's go across to Jamie. She's basically driving along from there, probably on the elephant carcass now, perhaps about to arrive at the Hyena Den.
We have arrived, in theory, at this Hyena Den. And I think this is the one that James and Herbie are talking about. I think. This is the only termite mound that's visible from the northern bank towards the southern bank. So this must be it here. That is so exciting. Unfortunately, not a hint of a hyena. I guess the entrance must be under that fallen tree, because I can't see where else it would be. Or down in the drainage, perhaps. Either way, it seems as though our hyenas have decided that they're going to vanish for the morning, and we'll probably only have luck with them again this afternoon. But that's going to be my plan for the sunset safari. That I can guarantee. I know this termite mound. If you cast, those of you who... boo-boo. it's a bird, by the way, that was calling. Those of you that were watching, gosh, when was it? I was with Dave on camera. It was an afternoon safari. It was a sunset safari, and Karula and her cubs came and lay right next to us. And then Hosanna disappeared in here with Karula, and he was feeding on a baby warthog, and he was on this exact termite mound. So I'm familiar with this termite mound, and I also happen to know how tricky it is moving around. Now, generally with hyena dens, we try and make sure that we don't drive very close to them. That we try and make sure that we keep a little bit of a distance, just to make sure that you're not impacting the cubs in any way, frightening the cubs in any way, particularly if there are new cubs in there. I don't know if they are, I don't know if they aren't. I know that I am super excited though. I'm so happy we have finally managed this. And if it's not this particular site, but I think it probably is, then it will be somewhere in here. It's the only other place that makes sense. So at least we'll have a good starting point for this afternoon's sunset safari. Now, if I were a hyena, and I had perhaps had a little bit of a fright, and perhaps decided to go for a wander, I think I'd go straight towards Treehouse Dam. And that's what I'm going to go and investigate now. See if perhaps they haven't gone for a wallow, since they have moved away from their home for now. They're not going to leave the den, just by the way, for those of you that are concerned about that. Hyenas generally are very resilient creatures. So they moved away from James and from Herbie, but that doesn't mean they're going to abandon the den site at all. Now, Red, you want to know if I were to sit here and do my famously accurate hyena whoop, you know how good I am at imitating animal sounds, how the animals would react to us. They wouldn't. I'm not sure there is a human being in the world that can imitate well enough to actually fool the actual animal. I don't think there is one. Sorry, I got distracted by a fly that was moving towards Jeandre. I'm not sure there is any human being. Perhaps there are one or two that have been practicing and have worked on the skill to the point that they've mastered it, but generally hyenas might look at you a little bit strangely, but it wouldn't be with any kind of recognition. They wouldn't recognize you as one of their clan, for example, or perhaps a foreign member of the clan. It is one of my absolute favorite sounds of the bush at night. Let me try not to back Jeandre into a large tree, or myself into a thorn tree. Okay, we're getting there. Patience and persistence. We're getting there with these hyenas. We are going to get to enjoy their company again. The only thing that concerns me slightly is that perhaps this is just where they gathered. Oh. Courtney in Texas, welcome to our sunrise safari. Courtney, the answer to that is no. The structure of a hyena clan doesn't resemble that of wolf packs in the slightest. So essentially, the way that hyena clans work, you've got all of the females are dominant, so immediately in contrast to wolf packs where the male is slightly larger, and you have an alpha female and an alpha male that lead the pack, and then a structure that goes below that. In hyenas, you sort of have one or two or three family female lines, and a very, very strict hierarchy that is female dominant. So there will be a matriarch of the clan. She's the most dominant. Below her will be her daughters, perhaps a sister. Then you'll get a sort of a lower ranking female and with her daughters, and then a lower ranking female with her children or her offspring. And essentially that's the way in which status or your position in the hierarchy is inherited from the mother. Any male, though, will fall completely below that hierarchy below a female. But you do get some male hyena that are more high-ranking than others. Clan males that actually play a very important role in defending defending the area, defending the territory that they are in. So it is a slightly different and quite complex structure. I also don't think that we know everything there is to know about hyena clan structures out here. I think that, a lot of the research has been done elsewhere in Africa. I think we've got the basic structure, but there's so much that happens in their lives that we don't fully understand. The way that they react to each other. Gwen, for example, that female, and by the way, just because we found a den doesn't mean we're going to abandon Gwen completely. We'll still go and check on her and still work on getting those cubs comfortable with us. I was about to say something's walked on top of my vehicle tracks from this morning, which was James. Hello. Not spotted creatures, but striped ones. Some very graceful kudu on their way for a drink, I think. Sudden stop. Perhaps has she seen... No. I was hoping, because it's getting hot now, we might find a hyena just wallowing in the water. But no such luck. I haven't seen one kudu calf yet. I can't tell if she's limping, isn't she? Isn't she walking quite stiffly, or was that my imagination? Maybe it's just the way that she's approaching the water hole. Let's go a little bit closer. And Brent's just popped back out on the Game Drive comms. I wonder if he's... There we go. It's a good position to be in. There's our lovely ladies going towards to have a drink. I don't think she was limping. No, she's limping a little bit. Just a little bit. Not too serious, though. It could just be a strained tendon. Beautiful. I have to confess, I think this is the first mammal I have seen drinking at this waterhole in a long time. The last mammal, Jeandre says the last mammal he saw drink here was Steph. That was so gross. What was that? That was the charcoal one?
No.
The charcoal filtration, or was it the sock? He bathed here. Oh yes, it was when he made the soap. That's right, it was when he made the soap. Yum. Is that a yellow bull? Let's see. Yay! It is a yellow-billed. Here we go. 2 species of oxpecker today. Yellow-billed and red-billed. The yellow-billed are quite unusual. So that, for our new viewers, is a nice, rare surprise. Or at least an unusual one. I don't know if I'd call it rare, but unusual. We don't see all that many yellow-billed oxpeckers. So this is a lovely, lovely treat. It's now refusing to be on camera. Oh, switching kudus. Next one. Oh, switching back again. Make up your mind, oxpecker. No, that's a red-billed. That was like one of those fairground games where they ask you to try and keep track of the marble under the cup or whatever it is. Is that it there now, on the top? No, that's a red-billed. Okay. All right, let's try the other kudu. Is that the yellow-billed on the other kudu? No. That's a red-billed. Alright, we've got a shape-shifting oxpecker somewhere here. As far as that is the only logical explanation I can think of. Alright, well, we'll go back to our red-billed oxpeckers. Aha! Aha! You thought you had us fooled. Here she's getting her ears cleaned, because of course oxpeckers, apart from eating ticks, will also feed upon earwax. They do have a charming diet. One of the few creatures that can. Honey guides are the other creatures that not will eat earwax, but that can and do digest wax. And that in the form, of course, of bees' hive wax. David, speaking of our different mammal species, you say female kudu and female nyala both have white stripes running down their backs. Is that correct? Absolutely, it is correct. Kudu, a female kudu is slightly larger, quite a lot larger actually than a nyala, and there's a slightly grayer tinge rather than a reddish tinge to their coats. They also predominantly have stripes and very few spots. You can see one or two there. Female nyala, slightly more orangey tinge to their coats with white stripes and quite a few more spots, particularly around the backside area. And then bushbuck, of course, can have stripes and spots as well, but generally in this area you will only see them with spots, and they're much, much smaller. Then with the males, male kudu are relatively unmistakable with their twirling horns. There's our yellow-billed oxpecker, by the way, doing a very professional balancing job on this kudu as she strides along. And then male and nyala are pretty much also unmistakable, I would say, with their dark shaggy coats. You do actually see vague hints of stripes on male and nyala as well, but not nearly as vibrant and clear as it is on the females. Male kudu do have stripes as well. And that is supposedly a way of essentially just breaking up the outline of the animal, so that if you're viewing them through the light of the trees, through leaves, for a predator's eyes, it's meant to hide the figure of that creature. Make it slightly, that was very South African, slightly harder to identify the exact position of that animal, where it begins and ends, and where would be the best place to attack. That's the theory behind the displacement coloration? Is that the word I'm looking for? I think so. Yum! Breakfast! Shamsun, very good question. Why are there different functions between red and yellow-billed oxpeckers? Not that I'm really aware of, Shamsun. The yellow-billed oxpeckers are slightly bigger, slightly more robust, but generally there's not much of a difference in terms of the ticks that they will eat. They are essentially the same thing, just two different species. But that is a very good point. It's an interesting quirk of evolution that has provided us with two species that are so similar, and yet just with those subtle differences, like finches, I suppose, or waxbills. The different species of waxbills. Oxpeckers, there's no real difference except for the color of the bill. I think they have the same reproductive system. That's not what I mean at all. What I mean is strategy, not system. Obviously they have the same reproductive system, the same reproductive strategy, cooperative breeders, I think. So I'm not sure that there's much in the way of a difference between the two of them. Might even just be a case of geographical speciation. While we watch our oxpeckers peck away at the ticks and ticks on themselves as well, no, oxpeckers, as far as I know, don't pick up any diseases from the ticks that they eat. They've got pretty much an immunity to anything that they might spread. And of course, generally, diseases, it's difficult to get it's unusual to pick up a disease. If I were to eat a tick, I wouldn't get tick bite fever just because my stomach acid would, or I most likely wouldn't get tick bite fever just because my stomach acid would deal with that in a heartbeat. So it's generally the diseases that are passed on by ticks are passed on when they bite the animals. Most of the animals out here have a resistance to ticks in terms of the rickettsia bacteria that they carry. And I actually suspect that quite a few of us have an immunity in this area, except for Brent. Brent doesn't. But the rest of us seem to have an immunity when it comes to tick bites and tick bite fever. If you've lived in an area for long enough, then you'll find that the people that have lived here very seldom get tick bite fever anymore. The last time I had tick bite fever was when I was about 12. And I don't think I've had it since. And I can assure you, I've had plenty of tick bites. Well, the wonderful news is that the man himself, having just spoken about him, is back up and running. Let's go and find out whether Rusty's gremlins problems are sorted.
Well, happy to be back out, and some good news. I've just found some very fresh tracks of Karula on top of Taxon's tracks from this morning, heading back down towards camp. So we're just stopping and listening for a second. I'm just going to try to figure out exactly where those tracks went off. And I think she's just ahead of us, so I'm actually going to only come back to those tracks if I don't find any. I think she's heading maybe down towards Galago, the Galago Pan. So they're right on top of Taxon's tracks, so they're very fresh. I didn't come up here the whole way this morning. I turned off at Galago. Oh, but when we started having a few gremlins, I was telling you some very interesting news about what I'd been chatting to Taxon on the radio about. Now, all of a sudden, and for the first time in moons, Termite Mound, there are 2 male lions that haven't been seen in a very long time that were found in Buffalo's Hook this morning. Just making sure Karula didn't go this way. Nope. Djuma is behind me. So that's also on top of Jim Reeves's track. So that's even more fresh. And that was that the Matimba males have made it back. Now that means they possibly have been chased by the Majingalans or other males down in the south. Now they're going to have to keep very quiet in this area to try avoid the Birmingham boys. Not sure where all the Birminghams are at the moment, but the other thing is that very close to where those Matimbas were found this morning, there seems to be tracks of the Nkahuma pride, quite about 800 meters from our northern boundary. So if we have no luck with Queen Karula, we might take a little trundle up there. I'm thinking she's cut through here. Remember, hashtag Safari Live or questions at WildEarthTV if you've got any questions for us. And very exciting news, and well done to the Bushwalk crew for finding the Hyena Den as well. Jason, hello. Jason says, is it true that a pride of 7 lionesses chased off the Nkahuma pride? Jason, I haven't heard that. I'm not sure where you heard that, but I haven't heard that. The only pride I know of, I think, if I remember correctly, has got 7 lionesses in the north. Could be the Torchwood pride that come in from Kruger. But I'm not 100% on that, and I haven't heard that they were chased. Now, we're on a road that no one's driven yet this morning, so hopefully, if Karula kept on that line she was going, her track should pop out around this corner here somewhere. Or even better, wouldn't it be nice to have her pop out on the road in front of us? Good morning, wherever you are, little... Oh, I can't remember its name now. Bunting. A little call I heard. Sounded like a little bunting. Now, it's quite possible that a pride like the Torchwood Pride with so many lionesses would chase off the Nkahumas, but hopefully they chase them back to Djuma. Okay, so there's no tracks coming out here just yet. I'm going to have a quick dash down to the waterhole. While we do that, let's go see what one of the jays are up to.
I'm meditating on where the leopard could be. We've come to where she was yesterday. There aren't any tracks. And Herbert says, quite rightly of course, that on a day like today, if we don't find her this morning, or any of the leopards, the pans are going to be the place to check. It's going to be very hot. Now, speaking of heat, this grass here is called Heteropogon contortus, or spear grass. And the point of my story here is that it's just gone to seed. But it has a fairly crucial adaptation, and that's this awn. And many of you will have heard me tell the story before, so I can just hear a bird making an unusual call. I'm just going to keep an eye out. And when it gets wet, which I'm tempted to do here, I'm tempted to make it wet. There, you can see it just slightly twisting. I don't know if you can see that. It's supposed to do that. I'm doing that with my hand. But it does do that of its own volition when it gets wet. So when it rains, it gets wet, it falls onto the ground, and then the moisture makes it sort of screw itself into the soil, and the seed is normally on the end there. So that's where the seed is. Now, the fact that it's come into sort of seed, if you like, at this time of the year, tells me that it's expecting rain, that it has evolved in a situation where rain is quite common, obviously in February time when this grass goes to seed. So I think that's quite interesting. I think we can probably expect some rain this month. I've never thought of it like that, but I think that's what this plant is telling us, that when it comes out, it's expecting some kind of moisture to help it drill into the ground. Heteropogon contortus, the spear grass, as you were. Right, I will show you the tree in which she was sitting yesterday when we found her, and we're just walking very gently through here, just to see if we can pick up some tracks. Interesting that Karula's tracks have been found, but that they are not with the youngsters. So I suspect that her territorial/hunting patrol yesterday was probably not successful. Lovely marula trees and fruit around here. I was asking Herbert about the making of the marula beer, which I'm sure you've heard us all discussing. And basically, it's interesting, north of here in Peñapalabor, this marula season, if you like, happens a bit earlier than it does here. I'm not sure why, but the trees there tend to fruit around Christmas time, and it drives the general productivity of the population plummeting into the pavement. So sort of it's about 10% productive compared with 100% during the rest of the year, and that's because the gathering of the marula fruits, the brewing of the beer, and then of course the consumption of the beer takes up most of people's time. Now what I'd quite like to do is to make some of this beer for our TV show. Unfortunately, apparently, I said, Herbie, well, how long does it take? Because all you do is actually squeeze the juices out, pretty much, put it in an airtight bucket for 3 days, and then it's ready to drink. You don't put any yeast in it, you don't have to put anything in it. But I said, well, can I do that perhaps? I'll make it for the during the TV show on Monday, and then by the time the next show comes along, the last show comes along, in fact, let's go this way. By the time the last show comes along, then we can drink it. He said, he likes to use the term fambashkwembu, which means go to God. He says if you drink that stuff after 7 days of brewing, he says you will fambashkwembu. In other words, it will become deeply toxic. So it won't just have a very light fermentation, it will become completely toxic. So we won't be doing that. I'm trying to think of a method still as to how we can do it, because I think it would be quite nice to do. This is a beautiful flower. And it looks to me, this is amazing. I don't think I've seen this before. This is a hibiscus flower, but it's pink.
There's a spider eating that moth.
There's a spider eating the butterfly. A crab spider eating the butterfly. Well spotted, Vumpy. Let me just get on the ground. That is very cool. Not if you happen to be the butterfly. This is a pink hibiscus, and it's Hibiscus cannabinus, I think, with a rare some genetic mutation. I'll have to take a photograph of that. And there's a bright yellow crab spider in there that was masquerading clearly as a piece of the pollen anthers, and it's caught itself a sulphur or orange-tipped butterfly, which is now unfortunately Fambad Squemble. You see how I was connecting the tissue there. And then, yes, as Kirsten says, there's a witness to the crime. This is wonderful. This is really fascinating. I'm definitely going to have to take a picture of this flower because I've never seen a hibiscus this colour before out here. I've seen them in my mother's garden, but not Hibiscus cannabinus. Judy H., if you're watching, is this a common thing, do you think? I can't imagine that it is. Now, Herbie is knocking about here, so don't worry, he's still looking for the leopard. But I'm definitely going to have to take a picture of this. I know that it's illegal and all that, but, you know, sometimes man must break the law, Vim. There's no need for you to break the law, though. You can keep looking there. That's very cool. Shelley, you said Tristan found this flower the other day. That is very cool to hear. I mean, I'm sad, of course, I wasn't the first, but, you know, you can't always be first. This is wonderful stuff, eh? I mean, that is beautiful. And look at the spider. Nasty creature. Oh, it's wonderful. They're such clever disguises of themselves, of course. And there in the background you can hear, perhaps, the gorgeous call of the southern bulbul. Oh, wonderful. Oh, and there's still a little bit of life left. No, I think it's the wind blowing that butterfly. Shame. Devoured by a crab spider.
Not really devoured, more like sucked dry.
More like sucked dry, as you say. Tweet history, you say, we're witnessing a crime? Yes, we are. But we're not the only witnesses. There are two other witnesses. See, there's the one bug there. I don't know what kind of a bug that is, naturally. And there's another one here. Ooh, that one was a stink bug. It flew off. I'm glad it's gone. Now, the crab spider comes, as Stefan is a sort of expert crab spider finder, he will tell you that they come in all sorts of different guises. And they can be, really depends on what they want to live on. This is not a sulphur tip, I think it's a grass. No, it's one of the tips. I just don't know which one. They can come in greens and pinks and yellows like this, but they sit on flowers beautifully disguised as whatever host plant they're on. And that means that they've evolved in conjunction with whatever flowers they choose to live on. I mean, that really is quite gorgeous. I can't believe Tristan found it before me. Sorry, my world, your music, I've been very confusing. You say, why is it illegal to take a picture of this flower? It isn't. It's just illegal for us to be taking pictures while we're live, because normally that either distracts us or it makes a horrible shutter noise. So that's why it's illegal. Sometimes I break the law, though, when something really exceptional happens like this. I take a picture, which I've just done. Thank you for bearing with me while I took the picture. What a fantastic little sighting. Now, if anybody else can tell me, if I can't remember ever seeing a pink one like this before, but maybe I have. Maybe my memory is just failing me, but it's certainly very uncommon. And I think this is Hibiscus cannabinus, so named for the leaf that looks a little bit like a cannabis leaf. Not quite the same, I don't think. Well, Georgianne in Illinois, you say that we have seen pink hibiscus on drive before in 2014 and 2015. Well, I'm assuming then that they're obviously not common. I mean, I think I'd know if they were common. But very interesting that they have been seen before. This isn't a world first. Very cool. Well, that crab spider to me is just too magnificent. Just phenomenal stuff. I don't know if we're going to find this leopard, but I don't really mind anymore, now that we've had this sighting. Alrighty, Vim, would you like to see my illegally gotten picture? Vim is normally fairly scathing of... No, you're not going to be able to see it in this light, I'm afraid. Vim is normally fairly scathing of my pictures. Whenever I say, Vim, I got that, he said, is it in focus? In other words, saying to me, I bet it's not in focus, is what he's actually saying. Not so, Vim. My focus is a lot better because my camera's now a lot better and it's able to do it on its own. But thank you. Very kind. Now we're very close by to where Shongalai was in her tree yesterday. Put my camera away while we look for the leopard. And Herbie went wandering up this way. Alright, while I try and find Herbert or the leopard, let's head across to Jamie and find out what she's doing right now and if she's perhaps still at the Hyena Den.
I am very happy about the Hyena Den and the fact that it has been located. I've left there for now just because I think they might need a little bit of time to return to that den site. I'm not entirely sure if we were in exactly the right spot, but we approached from the other side of that large river system or that large drainage line just because the way in from where Herbie had dropped his branch is filled with tamburtis and baby jackalberry trees, which are environmentally very sensitive trees, and you'll see us drive off-road quite happily, and there are certain species of tree that we will drive over, they spring back up, but to destroy something like a tamburti tree or a jackalberry tree, bearing in mind that whatever route in we choose now is probably going to become that regular road into that Hyena Den, just in the way that others have become. I just wanted to do it quite carefully. So we went in from the other side. We'll try again this afternoon or this evening and see whether or not they have popped out. I'm hoping, the one thing I am hoping is that they weren't just resting at that den site itself. That's my only concern. However, I think even if they are, it's put us on exactly the right track. It's too much of a coincidence that there's tracks on those roads every single morning and noise from those hyenas every single evening. Early tracks. Which way are they going? They're old, unfortunately. Looks like we're going in the right direction. Would be nice to finish off our sunrise safari with some elephants. It's been quite quiet out here. The other big problem with the fact that this part hasn't had any rain. We spoke a bit earlier about the squirrel that was alarm calling at the eagle. And Jockey, you want to know whether or not elephants have alarm calls. They certainly have sounds of alarm. It's not really, I don't really think it serves quite the same function as an alarm call, but that's also because rather than being prepared to run away from a predator or hide from a predator, they will invariably chase it. If they actually see it and if it's close enough to them that they can be bothered, they will go and chase predators, particularly wild dogs. They seem to have a thing about wild dogs that they really, really don't like them, in which case they trumpet, they scream. It's it's the same sound that they often use in Jurassic Park. That's where a lot of the sound effects came from, was the different vocalizations of elephants. So they do have alarm calls, but it's not quite an alarm call like, be careful, there's a predator. It's, we are coming to chase you away, you'd better start running kind of alarm. And it is a very dramatic sound. I don't know whether, I'm sure you have seen some of the footage of elephants chasing wild dogs before. Perhaps this footage from Brent where they all crowded together around Treehouse Dam, chased the dogs away. You can hear the screaming and trumpeting from there. And we've seen that regularly on these live safaris. Elephants coming in, chasing lions off kills, chasing lions when they're trying to hunt buffalo. Just in general, they are quite intolerant of predators, which is an interesting thing. I'd like to know the background behind that. They are big enough and scary enough to chase anything away, except in certain lion prides that have learnt that they are able to hunt and catch elephants, but that only really happens in certain areas, and it's quite unusual. It will only happen in the seasons where they're desperate. But otherwise, other predators are not a threat to elephants. They still don't tolerate them. Whoop. Bumpy, bumpy. It's been interesting to watch the movement of the animals. Driving along Zoe's road not too long ago would have resulted in all sorts of interesting signs of zebra and wildebeest and all sorts of things. Now, because we've had not sufficient rain, the grasses are starting to dry out and we're not seeing the same amounts of general game. How's that for a termite mound, Jeandre? Jeandre is searching for soldier termites to stitch his finger back together. What do you think? Do you want to try? Yeah? I'll go have a look. Let me see if I can find you a soldier. Jeandre has decided, whoopsie, rather than trying to tape his finger back together, he's going to try and stitch it with soldier termites. Oh! It just shot off under this bush. Sorry, Jeandre, your stitches might have to wait. Oh, it was very fast moving. I've lost it now. Where did you go? Strangely enough, I'm somewhat reluctant to stick my hand into the teak to try and find it. I prefer to avoid doing that. No, it has vanished. The testiculars are crossed. I think they're angry at me. Whoopsie. Hello, termites. There we go. I've got some soldiers here. Let's see what we can coax out for Jeandre's stitches. It's only the little ones here, Jeandre.
Baby soldiers.
Baby soldiers. None of the tank ones. Yeah, I don't think these are going to be big enough to stitch the skin on your finger. Unfortunately. It does work. Their jaws are particularly powerful, especially the large soldier termites, which can be this big with enormous heads. We've got a spider web there. Sorry, everybody. Jeandre just removing the inevitable gathering of the spider webs as we drive along. Okay, we'll have to keep trying and search. We better hurry, Jeandre, otherwise it's going to be too late for stitches. Even termite stitches. Might have to amputate. This is a good place for termite searching. Lots and lots of termite mounds around here. Unfortunately, not much else. It's suddenly got very, very warm, and I think almost everything is going to have gone into hiding underneath the shade. And the added disadvantage of the long grass, not disadvantage, we're very happy to see grass again, but it does make spotting things more tricky as well. Oh, apparently by comms weren't working. What was that, Kirst? Lovely question from Jared, wanting to know whether or not all sort of African habitats have as many termite mounds as we have, and if they are as central as ours are. No, not necessarily. There are certain areas where there are no termites at all. There's not enough vegetation for them to feed off. I'm thinking of parts of the Kalahari, for example, although there will be parts of the Kalahari, that green Kalahari, for example, that does have termite mounds. There are areas where there are different species of termites, so they don't make those massive structures in the same way that ours do, that our harvester termites or macrotermites do. So not every area will have vegetation like, or will have termite mounds just like this. Africa is, it's such an enormous place, and there are so many different types of biome, or what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, biome. Is that what I'm looking for? Yes, I think that is what I'm looking for. Coastal forests and so on don't have termite mounds. It doesn't mean they don't have termites, it just means that that particular area is lacking in the species of that builds the large mounds. While we search frantically for any sign of anything, really, let's go to James, see if he's having more luck.
Well, we have a little bit more luck. We've got some tracks of what looks to me like shongile. One of them was circled, though, and I think that may have been from the day before when Karula took the cubs up towards the kill over there. But we did find a track coming out of yesterday's area into this area. Now, this is the big jackalberry tree that is on Gowrie Cutline. It's a very famous tree here on account of its size. Funny how big people get famous, isn't it? That's why VM and I are not famous. We're not very big. We're going to wander down into the drainage line here and see if we don't find the spotted pelage of shongile spread luxuriously across the drainage line floor where it is cool. She, of course, is like her mother in that she's very clever and she spends time in trees when she's fast asleep. Her brother has displayed scant regard for such security measures and seems to be quite content to sleep soundly on the ground, which, if you're a leopard, is not very clever. And that's why I'm looking into the boughs of the trees to see if perhaps I'm not spotting some leopard. I'm just going to quickly ask Herbie, what look at Danjan? Low at all. Okay. Alright, Herbie reckons are slightly older than the ones that we were looking at. So maybe we'll head slowly back towards the dam. Milagoya Dangwin. Okay. So, interestingly, Herbie's got the same kind of impression that Brent does, that perhaps they've headed towards Gallagher Pan. So he had another look at those tracks, he reckons probably from yesterday. So it could easily be that they were knocking around here. It's so funny, you know, because they do move around a great deal. They don't go from point A to point B. They'll go there, then they'll turn, they'll come back, they'll turn around. So you find a direction, and then all of a sudden you find that they're right behind you. Anyway, that's the story with the leopards. We'll keep on looking there. Oh. Gary, it's a nice question. I'm just reminded of a whole lot of other things through it. You say, are there different levels for trackers in the same way that a martial art like karate might have different belts, or in the case of my kung fu training, a different colored t-shirt? Yes, there are. There are two main systems out here. The one is the cyber tracker system. That's the first one. And then there's another one developed by my very close friend Alex van den Heefer, who has created something called the Tracker Academy, and many of you would have met Renius when he was here, and he was doing a whole lot of tracking training with us, and just sort of some inspirational stories around his career as a tracker. And the two of them have set up a system. They created a wonderful partnership down to the south at Londolozi, where they created something called the Tracker Academy, and they too have got their own assessment system. It's largely based on the same sort of thing. There's level 1, which is a very basic identification of tracks, and I don't think there's even any following. I don't think they do any following in the level 1 assessment. Level 2, a slightly harder track, slightly more obscure, and there is a bit of following. So you might follow a rhino track, for example, which is, unfortunately for rhino, they're the easiest things to track and the nicest things to learn on. Then level 3, you have to get about, I think it's 85% and above for a whole lot of level 3 tracks. Now that can be fairly subjective as to what a level 3 track constitutes, but normally it's something that's not very easy to find, not very easy to see, and you've got to give it about 85%, and you've got to be able to track a lion. You've got to be able to track a lion to completion, a relatively easy lion track, so that's kind of standard track, or standard of following to find the lion. Then you get something in between, which I think it's either called level 4 on one system, or it's called advanced tracking on one of the other systems. I forget exactly what it was. But the qualification you want most is the thing called senior tracker. And then you've got to have 100% of any track that the assessor shows you. So you've got to get all of your track identification correct. And you need to do a leopard standard track from beginning to completion. Now you could be tracking lions, but it would have to be a difficult lion track. So the ultimate sort of tracking exercise out here is to be able to track and find a leopard on foot. And some of those tracks, they'll put you on the tracks. So say, there's the first leopard track, go and find it. That can take up to 6 hours on foot for the assessment. So it really is a thorough test of your skills as a tracker. Now, I'm nowhere close to that level. Herbie's pretty close to a senior level. I would say that he's probably, he's certainly a senior level follower. I'm not sure how good his obscure track identification of things like wasps and bird tracks are, but he's certainly a senior level follower. That's the kind of level we're at. And so, as Kirsten says, yes, he would be like a black belt. He's almost a Dan, or whatever they call them, but he's I guess he'd be called a master. And then you can get an honorary qualification called a master's tracker. Because it's relatively new, this assessment section, there's quite a lot of politics involved in it, and some people think it's theirs and only theirs. They are the only ones who should be allowed to assess trackers and say who's good and who's bad. I find the whole thing, and this is why Alex set his tracking assessment thing up, most of the good trackers are never assessed, and for countless decades they haven't been assessed in this area. The Shangans out here are renowned to be the best trackers in South Africa, well, between them and the Bushmen. And because guys like Herbert are doing this every single day, it's very difficult for an outside assessor to come in here and say, well, you're good or you're bad, because unless you're doing it like they're doing it every single day, it's almost impossible to be able to gain the same skills. And it's a practice that requires enormous dedication and enormous practice, just like any art. Any art that you want to master is going to take many, many thousands of hours. And a guy like Herbert and a guy like Renius have spent countless hours and continue to spend countless hours following these tracks. They can never not get better. So yes, to put it mildly, here's a great example. Herbert has circled a track here, which is completely invisible to me.
What track?
Exactly, what track, says VM. I can see it when I get down to sort of this level. Is a leopard track. It's a female leopard. It's a leopard cub female. That's it there. You see that? Now you can see it. It's clear as day once I've pointed it out to you. But to walk along or drive past in a car and see that, which is what Herbert has just done, that just wouldn't happen for me. So if you were to see that track, for example, that would be like a level 2 track, especially after I've made it more obvious. A level 3 track might be something like, so let's walk along the road here and find a track of something. So here's another circle track, right? This one's a bit more obvious. That would be like a level 1 track. So that is the leopard. But what they would do, perhaps on a level 3 assessment or a senior assessment, is do that. So they'd wipe that out, they'd clear that away, and I'm not joking here. And they'd say, well, what made that? Now, the way you would know what made that, of course, is that you could tell, if you were a genius like Herbert, you could tell that that was the left side track of a leopard, or the left front toe of the left front foot of a leopard, and that was the middle toe, because of the way they're spaced and the shape that they are, and the shape that they leave in this particular kind of substrate. If you showed me that, I would probably say, are you out of your cotton picking mind? I mean, I can see it. I've never done a tracking assessment. I'm probably around about a level 2 standard tracker assessor, and this tracker track and sign identifier. I'm not great at following because my eyes just don't see the tracks. But Herbert is that much better. And as Kirsten says, yes, I'm like a yellow belt, or in fact like a white t-shirt, as I was in my kung fu training. Anyway, she walked straight along this road here. We'll keep going along here. I'm not sure that we're going to find them. They've been so up and down in this area, so we might be lucky to bump them just before we get home. A yellow belt, indeed. Let's do a few grasses. Confirm to Jeandre. Right, apparently we're going to link to Jeandre, who's looking inside a termite mound. This makes me very nervous, very afraid. Good luck.
I'll get the first aid kit.
It is quite a nerve-wracking experience watching Jeandre trying to stitch up his thumb. I would help him, but at the same time it's quite interesting to just watch the technique. Should we try?
I've got one on.
You've got one on. Has it actually stitched it closed?
Yeah, the first part.
That's crazy. Sorry, everybody. Now would be that's amazing. That was really well done.
But now we've got a big boy.
Now we've got a big boy. Are you wanting me to? Do you want me to transfer him to your finger? I'm sorry if you're squeamish, everybody. How do I?
Let me go around.
Okay. Just don't. Yeah. Do you want me to take your next stitch?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Ah! Wait. Don't disappear. Sorry, the blade of grass hit the thingy. There we go. He's got it. Goodness. Jeandre, this is a
Big boy.
This is a big... How's that finger?
So quickly.
Sure. It is a serious soldier termite. Oh, this is something that you can actually do if you find yourself in the bush and you've got a nasty open wound. I hope none of you are feeling squeamish at Jeandre's cut finger. You can actually, I mean, people do use these as potential stitches for their injuries. I wouldn't want to get bitten by that. I can't believe you managed to get one on already. That was amazing. You can see the strength of its jaw. How on earth are we going to do this? I feel like I'm going to have to pluck him off. That's exactly what I'm... Oh my goodness. Oh, Jeandre, what have you got me into?
You wanted to do it.
What do you mean I wanted to do it?
No, I just wanted to actually try it.
Okay. Goodness. I was sort of half joking. Okay. I'm scared it's going to bite me. I don't need stitches! Oh dear. Here, come. Shame. I feel...
You can pick him, you just need to pick him up now and then put him on my thumb.
Great. You bit me! Come back. Shame. I feel like we're terrorizing this poor thing now. I feel a little bit too guilty to do this. I know Jeandre's finger is sore, but I just feel worse for this poor termite who has actually managed to, just to demonstrate the strength of its bite, it's actually managed to slice through this stalk of grass. Shame. Alright, buddy. I don't know if I feel worse for you or Jeandre. I think probably you. I think I'm going to put you back in your termite mound. I'm sorry, Jeandre. You've got a stitch now.
I definitely need another one.
You definitely need another one. Maybe we should just get a doctor. Maybe that would be the appropriate response. Oh, goodness. Now he doesn't want to move at all. Here we go. Fishing rod again. Shame. No, let me transfer him back to where he came from. Sure. Taking chunks out of this blade of grass. Alright, hold on. Let me transfer him. I feel too guilty. Jeandre is bereft of his stitch. Jeandre, how did you cut your finger?
James bit me.
James bit you. That's not true. That is blatantly not true. How did you cut your finger?
I was chiseling wood.
Chiseling wood. Alright, Termite, you are back. Go back that way. That way. Yes, there we go. As it heads back towards its termite mound, I'm going to leave it be and not behead it onto Jeandre's finger. Why were you chiseling wood, Jeandre? Being crafty. Alright, cheers, Termite. Live to see another day. Haha. Right, after our unsuccessful medical operation, mainly because I started to get a bit squeamish about the idea of beheading the poor termite, Jeandre is looking at me with a disappointed face. I'm sorry, Jeandre. I'll stitch it for you properly. That I'll do. That's different. I'm sure we've got suture stuff in camp. The strange things that happen in this place, I cannot begin to tell you. The live drives are just scratching the surface of the, well, it's basically like the tip of a termite mound. The bit that you see, there is a whole lot more going on underneath the surface of the soil. And if you think we're odd on these drives, you should see when the drives finish. I'm not even going to try you, blackback puffback, because I know you won't fly away. Here's a little squirrel. Thank goodness, a mammal. A positive finish to our safari. Well, not quite finish, 5 more minutes. An almost positive finish. Eating seeds. Look at it. What is it eating? Enjoying a little bit of what looks like it might actually have been wild aniseed. Alright, little squirrel. You are now almost invisible to us. Let's go see what else we can find in the mud wallows now that it's hot. It's my logic for driving along here is hopefully there's something wallowing in the mud. These are some of the only few remaining pans that actually have water in them along this road. And of course it's one of Karula's favourite spots as well. So you never know. We might just get lucky for the end of our sunrise safari. Whoa. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Kirst. I completely forgot that we spoke about the harrier hawk adult plumage question earlier. So thank you to all of you that sent through that it is apparently 3 years that it takes for a harrier hawk to go from its juvenile brownish plumage through the sub-adult phase and then into the adult phase where it has the grey plumage with the barring on the tail. thank you very much to all of you who sent that through. I learned something today. Hopefully you all did too, but that brings us to the end of our sunrise safari. So thank you, Jeandre. I'm sorry about your stitches. He's not giving... Thank you to Jeandre, and thank you to all of you for joining us. We'll catch you on the sunset safari. Bye-bye for now, and enjoy your last few minutes with James.
I'm quite pleased that termite was spared, Jeandre. To be frank, I would have bitten Jamie as well if she'd told me that I needed to get anywhere near a foul and open pustular wound that Jeandre had inflicted on himself, one of many such wounds that Jeandre has inflicted on himself. And indeed, VM was rather concerned by the whole situation because, of course, Jeandre has interesting methods of self-curing that normally make him much sicker than he actually is or was, and VM was very worried the camera department was going to be one man down had he put his hand into the termite mound. We had visions of monitor lizards leaping out and biting him, or pythons doing the same sort of thing and rendering him some kind of diseased wreck for the next 4 weeks. Thankfully, the termite showed its utter disdain for Jeandre's bodily fluids, bit Jamie, and was put back where it wanted to be in the very first place. I'm just doing a little circle around this little pan to see if we can't find some sign of those leopards, but we can't. So I don't know where they've gone, but hopefully sometime during the sunset safari they will be found. Now, I only have 30 seconds left, and so I'm going to lie down in this verdant lawn grass and say goodbye to you. Thank you very much for coming on Drive with us. It's been wonderful indeed. A big thank you to Jamie for her efforts, and to Jeandre. Absolutely no thanks to Brent Leo Smith, who spent 5 minutes on air today, unfortunately because of Rusty. We will see you later today during the sunset safari. Until then, I hope you sleep as well as I am.